Welcome back, players, to Level Up Recaps. Today, we're diving into a world where the story opens with a scene from a virtual reality game. There, a group of elves can be seen carrying out a massive hunt against a gigantic monster. In the middle of the chaos, a blonde-haired elf, who appears to be the tribe chief, looks completely shocked. The giant monster they are hunting is suddenly cut down by someone from outside their tribe. With a single attack, the monster's head is sliced clean off. The elf chief cannot hide his confusion. He wonders why an outsider would want to help them. After all this time, he himself has always treated outsiders harshly. But whatever the reason is, that outsider has saved his life and protected the entire elf tribe. Because of that, the tribe chief sincerely thanks him. He says that the elf tribe will never forget that debt. Not long after that, from the outsider's point of view, a system notification appears. His relationship with the elf tribe has increased by 10 points. Thanks to that relationship increase, he also obtains a new achievement. That achievement gives him permission to freely explore the elf territory, something that ordinary players previously could not do. Then, the tribe chief says that his younger sister wants to say something to the outsider. Not long after that, a beautiful elf appears. She works as an elf hunter. The elf hunter immediately asks the outsider to become her partner. At that moment, the system once again detects a new change. The outsider has now gained a partner from the elf race, which means he also obtains access to use special items belonging to the elves. However, their relationship apparently does not stop at being traveling partners. The beautiful elf hunter begins to show interest in the outsider. That feeling becomes clearer over time, until eventually, the two of them get married and officially become husband and wife. That moment looks like a dream for many players. A game world that does not only offer battles, rewards, and achievements, but also relationships that feel alive. And all of those scenes come from a game called Ares. After the presentation footage ends, someone asks for the game demonstration video to be stopped. That man is Lee Se-jin, a genius who created the virtual reality game called Ares. According to Lee Se-jin, Ares is not an ordinary game. Every character inside it is powered by artificial intelligence. An artificial intelligence that has personality, memory, and emotional responses like a living being. Because of that, he does not consider Ares to be just a game. To him, Ares is a new world. The people watching the presentation look truly amazed. They are not only impressed by the graphics, which look extremely realistic, but also by how the NPCs inside the game can react, as if they are truly alive. Lee Se-jin then explains that Ares is not simply a super realistic game. With super AI technology, they have succeeded in creating something close to the existence of a god. Inside Ares, the system will give great power to players based on their character achievements. With the help of the AI that controls that world, every player can become anything they want. They can become legendary heroes. They can become kings. They can even achieve things that are impossible for them to obtain in the real world. In other words, Ares offers one thing that humans desire most: the chance to live a second life. After hearing that explanation, everyone in the presentation room begins to feel interested. They raise their hands one by one. Then, together, they declare that they want to pre-order Lee Se-jin's game. Seeing that enthusiasm, Lee Se-jin simply smiles in satisfaction. In the year 2045, the VR game Ares is finally released, and it immediately becomes a global phenomenon. In a short time, its number of users reaches around 1 billion people. 1 year later, inside the world of Ares, new players begin entering the game with their own characters. All of them are left amazed by the atmosphere of the game world, which feels so real. However, there is one important thing that makes Ares different from ordinary games. A person's body shape and physical abilities in the real world apparently have a major influence on their character's abilities inside the game. Although the avatar's appearance can be changed, the player's basic physical abilities are still carried over. In a beginner area, A hooded man asks his muscular friend beside him to look forward. There, a special event can be seen. An event that has been running since Ares was first launched. The challenge is simple. Players only need to destroy a wooden doll within 10 attacks. At first glance, that challenge sounds very easy, but in reality, around 1.2 billion players have already tried it, and all of them have failed. The event is indeed made for beginners, and the reward is extremely tempting. Anyone who manages to complete it will receive a VVIP capsule worth 50 million won, along with a 5-point increase to all stats. The muscular man feels that the challenge looks too easy to be called impossible. However, his friend explains that now, almost no players dare to try it anymore. Even a national athlete and gold medalist named Hanul once tried that challenge, but he still failed. Hearing Hanul's name, the muscular man is immediately shocked. If even a gold medalist cannot complete it, then that event is clearly not an ordinary challenge. Because of that, many rumors begin spreading among the players. The muscular man then asks, "Why are there so many people gathered there?" But not a single one of them actually steps forward to try. The hooded man answers seriously, "Because today is the final day of that event." The hooded man had just finished explaining about the final day of the event, when suddenly someone asked for a path. Everyone immediately turned around. They were shocked when they saw a very large man walking through the crowd. His body was muscular, his aura was overwhelming, and on his head, 2 horns could be seen, making his appearance look even further from an ordinary human. People knew that man as primate Ma De-suk. He gripped his own wrist, then stared at the wooden doll in front of him with full confidence. So, this is the wooden doll that even Hanul could not destroy? All eyes were fixed on him. Ma De-suk's figure truly made everyone freeze. With a body that large, he looked more like a monster than a human. The hooded man had even heard a rumor that Ma De-suk was capable of killing a bear with his bare hands. Compared to him, the wooden doll that served as the event target looked small and fragile. Because of that, many players began to believe that this time, that impossible event would finally be conquered. With great excitement, Ma De-suk said that now was the time for him to take the VVIP Epic Capsule Prize worth of 50 million won. Without waiting any longer, he immediately threw his fist toward the wooden doll. The punch hit hard. The wooden doll was pushed back and swung backward. Seeing that, the players began to wonder, would Ma De-suk become the first person to complete this event? The same question also appeared in the monitoring room. A team leader who was watching the event from behind the scenes stared at the monitor nervously. He asked whether Ma De-suk could finally become the first winner. However, the assistant manager beside him looked worried instead. According to her, if they could only hope for Ma De-suk, that meant the situation was already quite dangerous. This event had failed to be completed for far too long. If even Ma De-suk failed, complaints from the players would definitely explode. People might start accusing Ares of intentionally creating an impossible quest only to attract attention and make profit. If that happened, tomorrow's news would surely make this problem even bigger. The team leader then began to consider the worst possibility. He asked whether they should interfere with the Ares system. However, he was also hesitant, because a decision like that would not necessarily be approved by their CEO. Lee Se-jin, the assistant manager, only answered that all decisions were in the team leader's hands. In fact, she herself already seemed ready to step back if this problem truly became bigger. However, all of those worries came too late. On the monitor, Ma De-suk could be seen frozen in shock. Turned out, even with his extraordinary strength, he still failed to destroy the wooden doll. The team leader and the assistant manager immediately lost all strength after seeing that result. They knew a bad situation was definitely coming. Because they felt there was nothing else they could do, the two of them decided to go buy dinner. They no longer had any hope that the event would be completed. However, just as they were about to leave, someone suddenly called the assistant manager. A beginner player was about to try the quest. Hearing that, The team leader answered with a flat expression. So what? Do you think he will succeed? The assistant manager still turned toward the screen. There, a young man could be seen wearing the beginner clothes from character creation. Normally, players could change those beginner clothes after defeating 10 level 1 monsters. That young man looked like a player who had truly just entered the game. However, there was one thing that caught their attention. He was carrying a sword that looked very realistic. Even so, the team leader and the assistant manager did not really care, because before this, many players had brought much better weapons, but they still failed. To them, the result would definitely be the same. Because of that, they chose to leave and buy food instead, rather than waste time watching another attempt that would most likely end in failure. However, their steps suddenly stopped. A loud sound came from the direction of the monitor. The team leader immediately turned around. His eyes instantly widened. On the screen, the wooden doll that no one had ever been able to destroy had been split apart by the young man's slash. Not long after that, a system notification appeared. The young man had become the first player to destroy the wooden doll in that event. As a reward, all of his stats increased by 5 points, and he also received 200 fame. The team leader and the assistant manager could only remain silent in shock. Who exactly was that young man? The team leader wondered, was there still someone that strong inside the game? However, the assistant manager answered that Ma De-suk should have been the last person with a chance to succeed. In other words, that young man was most likely not a famous athlete or a player with extraordinary physical ability. He might only be an ordinary person. But precisely because of that, the situation felt even stranger. The team leader suddenly realized something. He immediately shouted at the assistant manager to check the sword used by that young man. After it was checked, the result made them even more stunned. The assistant manager said that the sword's data was truly strange. The team leader had actually expected the result to be strange, because if it was not, then what had just happened could not be explained. Turned out, the sword used by that young man was an epic grade sword. The team leader swallowed hard. How could a beginner possibly have an epic grade sword? The same question appeared in their minds again. Who exactly was that young man? They had to find out his real identity. The story then moves back to several months earlier. The sound of a hammer striking metal can be heard. Inside a blacksmith's workshop, fire burns brightly from the furnace. Hot sparks fly everywhere, while the sound of forged metal continues to echo throughout the room. From a distance, a blacksmith can be seen forging something without stopping. Someone calls him, "Father." However, the blacksmith does not respond. He remains standing in front of the furnace, continuing to swing his hammer, as if he cannot hear anything. The call is heard again. "Father." A young man stands trembling behind him. When the blacksmith finally stops, the young man immediately says in a quiet voice that he has returned. The young man's tears burst out instantly. This young man is Hyeonsu, the son of the greatest blacksmith. Without hesitation, Hyeonsu immediately embraces his father's strong body tightly. While crying, he says that from now on, he will protect his father. First, his father only remains silent. After that, his father spoke in a heavy voice. "My son, my body is still burning." In an instant, flames spread over both of their bodies. His father, who had already been consumed by the fire, kept saying that his body felt extremely hot. Hyeonsu panicked completely. He kept calling out to his father, begging him to get out of the flames immediately. However, right in front of him, the fire had already spread across his father's entire body. Hyeonsu could only watch as his father burned while continuing to scream in pain. Not long after that, Hyeonsu woke up from the nightmare. His face was filled with sadness. Every night, the same dream kept repeating. A dream about the incident that took away his life, his father, and everything they had. The next day, in the hospital lobby, a man could be seen focusing on his phone screen. That man was Kim Ji-hoon. At that moment, Ji-hoon was reading news about the Aries event that had not been completed by anyone. The wooden doll event in Event Town was still a major topic of discussion. Because even after being attempted by so many players, not a single one had been able to destroy it. Not long after that, Hyeonsu arrived wearing clothes that covered his body. He called Ji-hoon from a distance. Ji-hoon immediately looked happy when he realized Hyeonsu had come. However, Hyeonsu looked annoyed instead, because Ji-hoon had asked him to meet during the day. Ji-hoon explained that he had no other chance to meet. Ever since Hyeonsu's father was hospitalized, Hyeonsu had always been busy and barely had any free time. Hyeonsu did not want to make small talk. He immediately asked why Ji-hoon had called him. Seeing Hyeonsu wearing clothes that covered him so much, Ji-hoon asked whether he did not feel hot. That question made Hyeonsu even more annoyed. He immediately removed his mask. Ji-hoon then went straight to the main topic. He asked whether Hyeonsu had ever heard of Aries. Hyeonsu looked confused. From his reaction, Ji-hoon immediately realized that Hyeonsu truly knew nothing about the game. Ji-hoon then explained that Aries was a virtual reality game that was extremely popular. Inside that game, there was an area called the Beginner Zone, a place where beginner players could try a special challenge. The problem was, not a single player had managed to complete the challenge in that beginner zone. Even professional players and famous people with extraordinary physical abilities had all failed. If Hyeonsu managed to complete it, he could receive a VVIP capsule worth millions of won. However, Hyeonsu only asked flatly, "So what?" With full confidence, Ji-hoon said that they had to try it. Hyeonsu immediately hesitated. If more than 1 billion people had already failed, how could he possibly succeed? Especially since he had never played a game before. However, Ji-hoon said that the challenge was indeed difficult. But that did not mean it was impossible. He said that because he believed Hyeonsu had a chance to destroy the wooden doll. Hyeonsu did not understand what he meant at all. Ji-hoon then showed him a standard capsule, which cost 10 million won. Hearing that price, Hyeonsu was very shocked. He also could not understand how there could be a game played by more than 1 billion people. According to Ji-hoon, that capsule was an investment. If their play went smoothly, the reward they could receive would be much greater, especially since items and rewards inside Aries could now be exchanged for real-world money. Ji-hoon immediately opened the capsule and asked Hyeonsu to try it. However, Hyeonsu instead asked where Ji-hoon had gotten such an expensive capsule. Ji-hoon answered that it was not important. What mattered was they had a chance to make a lot of money from that game. In a cold tone, Hyeonsu asked what would happen if they failed. He began to feel annoyed by Ji-hoon's attitude that was too relaxed. However, Ji-hoon still said that this was only an investment. Besides, from the beginning, he had already said that Hyeonsu had a chance. Hyeonsu became even more annoyed because Ji-hoon kept repeating the same sentence without explaining the reason. Seeing that Hyeonsu still did not understand, Ji-hoon finally explained that inside Aries, there was a blacksmith class. According to Ji-hoon, that was a huge opportunity. Then he pointed at Hyeonsu and said that Kang Hyeonsu was the person most suited for it, because Hyeonsu was the son of one of the best master smiths in the world. Not only that, Hyeonsu was also the only successor to that workshop. With the forging ability that Hyeonsu had, Ji-hoon was sure the wooden doll would not be a big problem. However, Hyeonsu became even angrier. He said that Ji-hoon did not know what he was talking about. Hyeonsu then took off his hat. He said that Ji-hoon had never seen his face after the accident that happened to his father. After that, Hyeonsu showed his face and said that this was his condition now. To be honest, he was not in a condition to try anything. Hyeonsu's memory then returned to the day when the incident happened. At that time, he ran with all his strength toward the workshop. From a distance, he could already see fire spreading everywhere. When he entered, Hyeonsu saw his father collapsed and buried under the wreckage. He was instantly shocked. and screamed, calling his father. Hyeonsu immediately ran toward his father, then lifted the debris that had fallen on his body. He tried to wake him up, but his father gave no response. In panic, Hyeonsu lifted his father's body and tried to carry him on his shoulder. At that moment, his heart broke when he saw his father's condition. For Hyeonsu, that incident truly took everything away. Even though he managed to survive, his father had not regained consciousness after the accident. And for a poor family like Hyeonsu and his father, hospital treatment costs were a burden that was almost impossible to bear. Because of that, Hyeonsu tried desperately to earn money. He began working at construction sites. At first, he only worked as an ordinary laborer. However, one day, someone asked him to swing a hammer. For Hyeonsu, holding a hammer was not unfamiliar. For 10 years, he had been used to helping his father in the workshop. He forged metal, struck iron, and did countless heavy tasks. Unfortunately, now he could no longer do all of that. After the fire incident, Hyeonsu's right hand lost its strength. He could no longer do heavy work like before. And for a blacksmith, losing strength in the main hand was the same as losing the future. Because of the condition of his hand, Hyeonsu could no longer continue his father's profession as a blacksmith. Even to work as a construction laborer, he could no longer do it like before. Hyeonsu said that he knew Jihoon was worried about him. However, he felt that he could still take care of his own life. Because of that, he asked Jihoon to return the capsule and stop wasting 10 million won on something useless. After saying that, Hyeonsu was about to leave, because it was already time for him to enter his work shift. However, before Hyeonsu truly left, Jihoon asked him to think about the offer one more time. Jihoon said that over the last few months, he knew Hyeonsu had been living a very difficult life, only to pay his father's hospital bills. He then asked, how long could Hyeonsu keep living like that? Then what about Hyeonsu's own life? There was no way he would keep surviving like that forever. Because of that, according to Jihoon, this Aries capsule could become a solution, especially because Jihoon knew very well that the cost of Hyeonsu's father's treatment had already reached 3 billion won. Jihoon, who was starting to get annoyed, finally threatened Hyeonsu. He said that the Hyeonsu he knew was not like this. Then Jihoon shouted that Hyeonsu once said he wanted to live as a blacksmith forever. And if that was really true, then in Aries, he could still do it. Jihoon even said that he would take responsibility for the hospital costs of Hyeonsu's father, as long as Hyeonsu was willing to listen to him just this once. Jihoon kept forcing Hyeonsu to try Aries just one time. After that, whatever decision Hyeonsu made, he would not force him again. Hyeonsu only stood still without answering. His mind sank back into the nightmare that always haunted him. He remembered his father, who kept screaming because he was burning. Hyeonsu then raised his right hand, which was still trembling. After that, at the construction site where Hyeonsu worked, he felt that Jihoon's words kept disturbing his mind. He tried to ignore all of it and only wanted to focus on his current work. After all, he had to earn money to pay for his father's treatment costs. However, Hyeonsu froze again when he saw a worker swinging a hammer. The sound of clashing metal once again reminded him of the blacksmith profession that he had once dreamed of. That sound seemed to keep echoing inside his heart. Because of that, Hyeonsu finally decided to go to Jihoon's place. Now, he was determined to play Aries for the sake of his dream, even if that dream could only be realized inside a game. Hyeonsu still clearly remembered Jihoon's words from before. It had been far too long since he missed the fire that wiped away his sweat and the sound of forged iron. And so, Hyeonsu entered the capsule and prepared to begin his journey in the world of Aries. After logging in, Hyeonsu was guided to create his character. The system asked him to enter a nickname. Hyeonsu then decided to use his own name. After that, the system began the character customization process. As the process continued, Hyeonsu was shocked to see the changes in his body. The system informed him that it would perform a body type analysis. Hyeonsu was stunned as he watched the scars on his body slowly disappear. He became even more shocked when the analysis process was completed. His body had truly returned clean, without a single scar left. The system then asked whether Hyeonsu wanted to use that appearance. Hyeonsu agreed. With that, the character creation was successfully completed. Now, the system began searching for a server suitable for him. Seeing his body return to the way it used to be, Hyeonsu clenched his fist. Then he muttered that Kim Ji-hoon was truly annoying. However, it was not only his scars that disappeared. The strength in his right hand had also returned. Hyeonsu then said that it seemed he really owed Ji-hoon 10 million won now. Because of that, he felt that he had to work hard to repay it. Not long after, Hyeonsu was immediately sent to the beginner area. More precisely, to Barden territory, at a place called Ren's Smithy. Inside that workshop, an old blacksmith could be seen breathing heavily. He clutched his arm, while saying that he would not give up so easily. While heating the iron, the old blacksmith kept cursing the instructors. He said that he would destroy their arrogance. No matter what happened, he was determined to forge a sword that was greater than the swords they made. He then continued forging the hot iron with all his strength. While swinging the hammer, he shouted and begged for it to succeed this time. However, suddenly, someone came and said, "That was not the way to do it." Hearing that voice, the old blacksmith was immediately shocked. He turned around and saw a young man standing behind him. The old blacksmith was confused. How could an outsider enter his workshop just like that and dare to say something like that to him? And that young man was Hyeonsu. Hyeonsu once again confirmed that the method used by the old blacksmith was wrong. Hearing those words, the old blacksmith immediately became angry. However, Hyeonsu remained calm. He said that from the process, it seemed like the old blacksmith was trying to make a sword. It was just that, according to Hyeonsu, the method he was using was not right. If it continued to be forged that way, the sword that was produced would not have strong durability. The old blacksmith felt puzzled. What could an outsider possibly know to dare say something like that to him? Hyeonsu answered that he realized he was being rude. However, he could not stay silent when he saw the wrong method being used in front of his eyes. Hearing Hyeonsu's answer, the old blacksmith began to feel that this young man might truly understand the world of forging. In the end, the old blacksmith gave in and gave Hyeonsu a chance. He handed the hammer to Hyeonsu and asked him to show the method he thought was correct. The old blacksmith said if Hyeonsu was truly talented, he would observe his method carefully. First, Hyeonsu only intended to build a good relationship with the old blacksmith, so he could borrow his forging equipment. However, even though the result had become like this, for Hyeonsu, it was not a problem. He immediately said that he had one request. If the old blacksmith truly acknowledged his talent, then Hyeonsu wanted the sword he made to become his own. In exchange, he would show the old blacksmith the entire process of making that sword. Hearing that request, the old blacksmith laughed softly. He said that Hyeonsu apparently had quite a lot of nerve. The old blacksmith then turned around and agreed to Hyeonsu's request. However, if Hyeonsu failed, then he would have to bear the consequences of the arrogant attitude he had shown. With full confidence, Hyeonsu accepted that condition. First, Hyeonsu began heating the material that would be forged. In his mind, he wondered how long it had been since the last time he forged something. Maybe it had already been 3 years. After that accident, this was the first time he stood in front of a furnace again, holding a hammer and beginning the forging process. However, even though it had been a long time since he last did it, Hyeonsu felt that he could still do it. He was sure that his body still remembered everything. In his thoughts, Hyeonsu remembered his father again, who was still lying in the hospital. He also remembered Ji-hoon, who had already encouraged him. Hyeonsu wanted those two important people in his life to wait just a little longer, because this time, he would try to rise again. Slowly, the sensation he had missed for so long began to return. The sound of forged iron, the heat of the fire touching his skin, and the vibration of the hammer traveling all the way into his arm. All of it felt so familiar. While smiling, Hyeonsu felt that this sensation truly made him nostalgic. He then continued forging without stopping. His body still remembered that movement, and because his body still remembered, Hyeonsu was sure he could do it. The old blacksmith watched Hyeonsu from behind. At first, he thought Hyeonsu had only come to mock him. However, his thoughts began to change when Hyeonsu successfully formed the basic shape of the sword. Even so, the old blacksmith still tried to look down on him. He said that Hyeonsu's ability was apparently only at that level. However, there was one thing that made him curious. Why did Hyeonsu keep smiling like that? For the old blacksmith, enjoying the forging process would not change the final result. Without enough ability, a person would still have a limit on how far they could go. The old blacksmith had actually given Hyeonsu permission only because he wanted to teach him a lesson. After all, it was impossible for a player to obtain blacksmith skill in the beginner zone. However, suddenly, the old blacksmith was shocked when he saw the method Hyeonsu was using. He wondered, what exactly was that young man doing? Hyeonsu forged the iron by breaking it first, then joining it back together, before continuing the forging process. The old blacksmith slowly began to understand. Maybe that was Hyeonsu's way of increasing the durability of the material. However, he was still shocked, because a method like that had never crossed his mind. The question now was that method truly effective? Because of his curiosity, the old blacksmith decided to use his own skill to identify the grade of that material. The result made him fall silent. The rank D iron forged by Hyeonsu had successfully increased to rank C. The old blacksmith was truly shocked. All this time, he had also made many pieces of high-quality iron. However, he had never seen a grade increase that fast. Seeing Hyeonsu succeed in doing it, the old blacksmith began to believe that the young man really did have ability. But even so, he still felt that perhaps that was as far as Hyeonsu could go. According to him, Hyeonsu would not be able to increase that iron to an even higher grade. So he mocked Hyeonsu and told him to keep forging however he wanted. The old blacksmith said that even if Hyeonsu really did have ability, if he did not have skill in this world, then the result would still be the same as his. The next day, on a bright morning, the sound of birds chirping could be heard from outside. However, inside the workshop, the ringing sound of iron still continued to echo. The old blacksmith woke up. As soon as he opened his eyes, they immediately widened in shock. In front of him, Hyeonsu was still standing, and still forging without stopping. The old blacksmith was frozen as he looked at him. Hyeonsu was still continuing the forging process, without taking even the slightest rest. However, his face did not show any exhaustion at all. Instead, his eyes were shining as he looked at the sparks from the iron he was forging. Hyeonsu kept repeating the same process, again and again. The old blacksmith began to wonder, did Hyeonsu not feel tired? Was it true that this young man had repeated the forging process throughout the entire night? However, his shock was not over yet. He was once again left stunned when he saw that Hyeonsu had successfully increased the grade of the material again. This time, the iron had risen to rank B. For the old blacksmith, that was truly impossible. He could not believe that Hyeonsu could create rank B material without having any blacksmith skill at all. And when he saw that Hyeonsu still had not stopped, the old blacksmith began to realize that this young man apparently intended to increase its grade even further. Meanwhile, Hyeonsu was observing the detailed shape of the sword he was making, especially the part that would later be used to create the handle. However, his head began to feel dizzy. It had been far too long since the last time he had done a forging process like this. Suddenly, the old blacksmith approached Hyeonsu. That made Hyeonsu confused. Then the old blacksmith said that Hyeonsu only needed to tell him what had to be done. At the very least, the old blacksmith felt that he could still help a little. Seeing his attitude, Hyeonsu felt happy and immediately thanked him. After that, they continued the process of making the sword together. The two of them worked together to create a sword that would not be easily destroyed. Finally, thanks to the cooperation of the two blacksmiths, the sword almost reached its final stage. The old blacksmith was stunned again. He was truly shocked because the sword had successfully been raised to grade A. He also did not expect that at this level, Hyeonsu could forge a rare weapon. In the end, the old blacksmith began to realize that making something like this was not impossible. He said that even though he was only an ordinary blacksmith, he could still read the quality of an item. Until now, let alone a magic grade weapon, he had never even seen a rare grade weapon in the beginner zone. The old blacksmith then praised Hyeonsu. If Hyeonsu continued like this, he was sure Hyeonsu could create a truly unique weapon. However, Hyeonsu did not respond. He was still too focused on the sword handle in front of him. Seeing that, the old blacksmith asked whether Hyeonsu did not feel excited after hearing his praise. Hyeonsu immediately answered that it was still too early to celebrate. Hearing that answer, the old blacksmith became confused. With a serious face, Hyeonsu turned his head and said that he still had to finish the handle. Besides that, the sword blade still had to be sharpened, so it would become much sharper. The old blacksmith could only fall silent. Hyeonsu then said again that they also had to make sure the sword could withstand weight without bending. Not only that, the tip of the sword had also not reached maximum sharpness. Hearing Hyeonsu's explanation, the old blacksmith suddenly laughed. He said that this was the first time he had ever seen an outsider like Hyeonsu. Hyeonsu then told him that ever since he was a child, he had always loved swinging a hammer. The old blacksmith then asked again whether Hyeonsu was really making that sword for himself to carry. Hyeonsu nodded. After hearing that answer, the old blacksmith took out two special oars. Then he asked, what if Hyeonsu tried to make another sword using those materials? Hyeonsu felt confused. He did not recognize the oars that the old blacksmith was holding at all. Because he was unsure, Hyeonsu asked what they were. With a serious expression, the old blacksmith answered that they were mithril oars. Those oars were a family inheritance, passed down to him, and had already been considered like a family treasure. Hyeonsu asked why the old blacksmith would give something that important to him. With certainty, the old blacksmith answered that thanks to Hyeonsu, he had been able to learn many things. Now, he felt like he wanted to keep learning, and learning again. Besides that, processing or like mithril was beyond his ability. He wanted to see what kind of sword Hyeonsu could make from mithril, and he wanted to witness it directly with his own eyes. Hearing all of that, Hyeonsu only stayed silent while staring at the mithril or a material like that could never be found in the real world. He never expected that he would get a chance to make a weapon from a legendary material that he had only ever read about in novels. However, because Hyeonsu himself had never processed this kind of material before, he knew that this would be a gamble. Seeing that Hyeonsu was willing to try, the old blacksmith once again offered to help. He wanted to be involved so he could learn from the process. Hyeonsu allowed him. Hearing that answer, the old blacksmith suddenly said, what if Hyeonsu became his teacher instead? Hyeonsu was momentarily shocked after hearing that request. He tried to refuse because the old blacksmith was much older than him. However, the old blacksmith kept forcing Hyeonsu to accept. And exactly 1 month after that, Hyeonsu used the mithril sword he had successfully made to cut down the wooden doll in the event. That sword was named Lightbringer, an epic grade item. Even though his level was still 1, Hyeonsu had successfully created his greatest masterpiece. Meanwhile, in the control room, the team leader and assistant manager, who were watching the screen, looked extremely shocked. They discovered that from the moment Hyeonsu first entered Ares, he had immediately started forging a sword. The team leader truly admired the extraordinary figure of Hyeonsu. However, the assistant manager told him to reduce his admiration and increase his work, because if not, his position could be demoted. Hearing the assistant manager's words, the team leader answered that he had felt frustrated because he could not find anything new. That was why he had only rested for a moment. Not long after that, the assistant manager finally managed to obtain Hyeonsu's identity. His name was Kang Hyeonsu. His age was 23. At the moment, he was living in a Gaziwan studio in Odong and had logged in from the place of someone he knew. The team leader praised the assistant manager for being able to find Hyeonsu's real identity so quickly. Turned out that information could be obtained because Hyeonsu had already received and used his VVIP capsule. The team leader was briefly surprised because earlier, Hyeonsu had given no response. The assistant manager explained that Hyeonsu wanted his identity to remain hidden. The team leader was a little confused as to why Hyeonsu wanted to hide his identity that much. The assistant manager answered that Hyeonsu had emphasized that point very strongly. According to her, if Hyeonsu's identity was exposed, he could be treated like a spectacle in real life, because even inside the game, there were already so many people following him now. Hyeonsu was being chased around by players who had suddenly become his fans. The assistant manager then said that right now, Hyeonsu had just entered the hunting training ground. And sure enough, Hyeonsu was currently inside the hunting training ground, and there, an instructor named Rel-sun immediately spoke to him. Rel-sun said that starting from this place, real monsters would appear. He then warned Hyeonsu that he could see a player's level. According to Rel-sun, a level 1 player would not be able to pass this test. That was what Rel-sun said. In a sharp tone, Rel-sun also said that he did not want to waste time. So, he told Hyeonsu to just go back. At the very least, Hyeonsu should hunt rabbits first, before coming back to that place. However, Rel-sun felt strange, because he could not see Hyeonsu's stats at all. Hyeonsu answered that he would make sure not to waste Rel-sun's time. Seeing Hyeonsu being so stubborn, Rel-sun said that the young man was truly annoying. In the end, Rel-sun asked Hyeonsu to choose one sword and bring it there. Hyeonsu then asked if any sword could be used. Would it be a problem if he used his own sword?